Micromanager forced to step down. After mismanaging a new retail service. This one might be petty and definitely not as epic as some of the posts I've seen here. And I'm long-winded. Relevant background info first. Anyway, several years ago I was working at one of the big hardware stores in my area. It's a household name and has some upward mobility with decent pay for the area. I never really found a niche there after my first year and a half. I learned quickly though, so they kinda made me a Swiss Army employee. I could work hardware, plumbing, mix paint, make keys, prepare contracts for installs and knew all the features and flaws of the appliance models we sold. I was happy to do this because I was building a reputation as someone who could do everything. 2 years in, a new program was implemented that I was uniquely qualified to assist with. They created a new position for me. It was marketed as an all-in-one renovation/remodel service for interiors. I was to assist the designer with product selection, product information, contracts and local marketing for this service. Everyone involved was super excited about it. Note, I was still only making $10 an hour in 2015 for this. The problem was that because this was brand new, no one knew how it should work. The designer basically had to figure it out for herself while I tried to catch up with all of the store and product knowledge I had accumulated during my unique experience with the company. Issues with the program: it was way too expensive, product to be used had to come from one of our stores, which was limiting, and no one knew about it. It was a rocky start. Coworkers would call me over to talk to customers if they mentioned working on a big project, but that's all we had. No completed jobs to reference or anything provided by the corporate to get us running. We made our own stuff. I put together a video advertising the service and got the nod from management to use a company card to purchase a TV and media player to roll the video on repeat. We built vignettes in the store to showcase our design ability. I had been picking up a lot from the designer, so it ended up being a partnership in effect. The micromanager, enter Devin the assistant manager. He had actually been involved in the project from the beginning, and had been pretty supportive and brought good energy at first. But I think he got fed up with issues that we couldn't control, sloppy contractors refusing to fix things that they messed up, slow design process as customers worked out what they wanted and people just backing out after taking a bunch of our time when they saw the price. We were, on average, charging $3,000 more for a small bathroom remodel on labor alone. Consulting and design fees were also worked into the final cost. The product was discounted to basically being tax-free, but as I mentioned, options were limited to products the company sold. It was just too expensive to make many sales on the poorer side of town, where almost everyone knows some kind of contractor or tradesman with connections. It wasn't a good market for this program, but we did manage to start hitting, and exceeding, our numbers. Number 7 in the region for the brand new program was not bad. And just when we finally started getting some business and a rhythm around 8 months in, Devin decided that it was not working fast enough for him. Obviously the designer was to blame since he had no authority over the contractors or setting prices. She didn't know what she was doing and he was going to make some changes. He honestly didn't do much besides hover, bring bad energy and make terrible suggestions. He didn't understand the scope of what we had to do to get a customer out the door and happy. He forced us to cut corners and get the sale as quickly as possible without concern for liability, for basically destroying a room in someone's home to remake it, or what was realistic in terms of timelines. Customers felt rushed and got nervous. They backed out. We came to a standstill. We would only have 2 or 3 designs in progress at a time, but suddenly after working our asses off building the program, we had no customers for the first time in 6 months. Obviously Devin was not subjecting us to his authority hard enough. So he went harder, and fired the designer. I lost my patience. Justice, or injustice I don't know, I'm a chill dude, but I had been working my SS off for this company, making peanuts on the promise that I was working towards something. I endured working for the incompetent managers that got their positions because they started working there at 18 and made it their life. The toxic alpha male I will lead, you will follow BS was too much. So I started bullying him back, making fun of him in a teasing way where he couldn't really react without looking bad or losing control. I did that for a while and he left me alone to run the program in the interim since I was the only option. The designer and I had become friends though, so I was still mad about how it went down. I wasn't finished yet, but I didn't know what to do. Eventually they got another designer and Devin had me moved back to what I had been doing before. Passed over for several promotions that I was more than qualified for. The market had been flooded with long-time employees that were being moved around. Bad luck, but I was done with the place. One day we were sent an email link to an anonymous manager review survey. The store computers were set up with an always-on and logged-in user profile, so I wrote down the link and verified with a coworker that they weren't unique. In every department I visited that day, I wrote a review for Devin. All different ratings, some good, some bad, but I made the good ones so that they sounded bad, but as if I didn't know it was bad. I did that maybe 10 times. It wasn't character assassination or anything, just opinion-based stuff with some vague examples so no one could figure out it was me. I didn't lie either, I just said what people don't usually say out loud. He would barely look at anyone after that. A couple of weeks later he resigned his position as assistant manager and took an exterior design position at the other end of the store, as far away from the departments he had been over before. Basically the same thing as what we had done with interiors, but he was in the designer's shoes. I left a couple of months later to work tech support for DHS, but while I was still in training for that, my friends from the store told me he had gotten fired. Maybe he learned something? He should at least have learned how my designer friend felt. They were both fired at Christmas. My girlfriend humiliated me and I want to break up with her. I have been with my girlfriend Carly for 4 years and I wanted to marry this woman, until last night. Carly has been under more stress from work and family during the last few months. Her dad has cancer and it hasn't been easy on her. She's been drinking more and more, and while I don't mind her drinking, It's how she gets when she's intoxicated is where I begin to have issues. She has a tendency to get pretty mean and say some awful things, talking about my appearance or how small my PP is. She makes me feel like I'm not enough for her emotionally or in the bedroom. She is almost always apologetic the next morning, and will spend the next few days after that trying to fix things but will turn around and do it again when she drinks. It really came to a head last night when I took her and her friend out to a local bar that's popular. I volunteered to be their DD for the night. She's driven intoxicated before and I didn't want her to make that choice again. I told her that I didn't want her to drink too much tonight, and she agreed that she wouldn't. The bar was packed when we got there, so we all went and sat at the bar and ordered some food and drinks. They were enjoying themselves and I watched the game while they drank and enjoyed themselves. I got up and went to the bathroom, and when I came back, I noticed my girlfriend was getting loud and her friend screamed PP sleeve while laughing. She then said, as I walked up and was in earshot, that her ex was the biggest she had and she missed it. I pretended not to hear it, because I knew she was getting intoxicated. I touched her back and sat down at the bar again, before the guy sitting at the table grabbed both our attention and asked us if I was the PP sleeve guy, and I immediately felt like I was going to be sick. These guys are laughing at me and I asked Carly if she was serious. She kept laughing. So I just grabbed my keys and walked out. I left both her and her friend there at the bar and I drove home. I immediately packed up my essential stuff and I went to stay with a close friend for a few days. I didn't get any texts from Carly until about an hour after I left them there, asking where I was. I then got a bunch of missed calls and texts that weren't anything but angry. I answered one call and she was still slurring her words and I heard she was still in the bar, so I hung up and turned off my ringer. I woke up to a stream of apology texts and more missed phone calls. She apologized and said she messed up and was wondering when I was coming home, that I satisfied her and that I'm more than enough for her, that she'll make this right if I come home. Update, my girlfriend humiliated me and I want to break up with her. I drove back to our apartment to get my stuff and my cat the next morning. My ex Eva came with me. My ex and I are childhood friends and Carly knows this. I told Eva to wait in the car and I would text her when I needed help with things. I walked in the apartment and Carly was sitting on the couch crying. She saw me and ran over to hug me. She immediately started apologizing. She said she was sorry and that she knew she messed up, that her friend told her what she said. I asked her if she cheated on me. She immediately said no and offered up access to everything of hers. I told her that's not what I wanted. She told me that she didn't mean what she said, that I'm more than enough for her and she only knows she said the thing about her ex because her friend told her. She said that definitely wasn't true, that she didn't miss him at all and I'm the man she wants to marry. I told her that how she humiliated me was something I just can't get over, that her addiction and how she treats me when she's intoxicated has decimated any romantic feelings I've had. She said she understood, and that she was sorry for everything. The pain in her voice, I knew she was remorseful. I told her that I needed to go. No contact for a while, that even though I still love her because we spent years together, with many positive memories, that she needs help and I can't continue on like this. She was crying the entire time. I gave her a hug and I told her that I hope we can reconnect one day, but that she needs to work on herself and clean herself up for herself, and only her, not for anyone else. I texted Eva and I told Carly that Eva was letting me crash and that she's been supportive. Carly was okay with this. I told Carly that I'll pay the last 2 months' rent on our lease, then it's on her to find a new place or to renew the lease herself. Eva thought it was a good idea, in her words, so she knows even more what she lost in me. I don't mind, I already budgeted for it anyway. We got back to Eva's and I honestly felt free. I went to block Carly's number and I saw she sent me some texts, not trying to fight for me back, but just saying how I helped her and saying that she was sorry for everything. She said that she's going to take my advice and that she wishes the best for me. I did screenshot the text, but I deleted the message itself. Eva said that we should celebrate, and she made us some Bloody Marys. We turned on some music. Eva and spent time drinking and talking about memories we had. Eva and I began to talk about more personal things. She was way more hammered than me and she kissed me. I was into it for a few seconds before my brain took over and I pushed her away. I told her she's too out of it and she doesn't know what she's doing. I helped her get to bed and I crashed on the couch. I woke up to my cat jumping on me and Eva was making bacon in the kitchen. Before I even opened my mouth, she said that she was sorry about last night, that she knew better and that she didn't mean to make me uncomfortable. I told her she didn't and that I only stopped it because she was intoxicated. We kissed again in the kitchen and we went out to dinner that night. I paid for it too. Thank her, and things actually got spicy when we got back that night. It was honestly the best I've felt in bed in a long time. I think she was just stroking my ego, but she said it was the best she's had in years with anyone. My confidence is through the roof right now. I abandoned my girlfriend because I thought she was unfaithful to me. 4 years later she married my best friend and I discovered something horrifying. I was 21 when my girlfriend of 8 years got pregnant with another man and left me for him. I fell into depression and was fired from my job because I began to decline at work. My best friend Robert helped me get up and get a new job. When I turned 23 I met Sienna. She was a new friend of my cousin. We met and I quickly asked her out. She accepted and over time we became a couple. I was quite toxic towards her. I wanted to know where she was all the time and with whom. Sienna refused to indulge this type of behavior because she said that if she agreed to this over time I would get worse, that I should trust her. In all other aspects our relationship was quite good. I began to heal and the relationship and bond became stronger. We started living together. We lasted 6 years together and they were the best years of my love life. Sienna and Robert eventually became good friends. One Friday night I had to stay to work overtime to do some reports for the end of the quarter at that time. Sienna, Robert and other friends went out drinking. I got home around 12:30 and Sienna still wasn't there. I started calling her and her cell phone was off. Robert sent me a message asking if I was already home and I answered yes. He sent me a photo of Sienna and a man unclothed in a bed sleeping. He texted I was looking for Sienna to bring home and I found her like this. After crying uncontrollably I took several of my things and went to my sister's apartment. I texted Sienna that she was a beach and had to get out of my apartment by Sunday and proceeded to block her. When I got to my apartment on Sunday, her things were gone. In the first few weeks she never tried to approach me to talk or apologize. It got so bad because she helped me so much to overcome the previous infidelity and she herself was unfaithful to me. I walked away and avoided anyone who talked about Sienna. My best friend supported me and said that she wasn't worth it, that it was better to realize it now and not in the future when we were married. About 3 months passed and I decided to go to another state. I got a job and a small place to stay where I could adapt. I met several women but the relationships never lasted long. I never had social networks. I had communication with Robert but over time it became non-existent. 6 months ago I decided to download Facebook. I found my sister and checking her friends list I found Robert. In marital status he said married. Checked the photos of him and he married Sienna a year ago. I asked my sister about them and she said that they didn't know anything about Robert's life since I left. They have seen him at most 10 times in these 4 years but they never started a real conversation. I wrote to one of my friends on Facebook at that time, and he did have contact with Robert. I asked him about it and he told me that Robert and Sienna became very close because Robert supported Sienna after her altercation. He also called me an idiot for abandoning Sienna in her state even though she always supported me. I asked him what she was referring to, as I didn't know what she was talking about. He asked for my number and called me a few minutes later. Apparently that night they started drinking a lot, several of them left Sienna alone. After a while Roberto sent me the image, they woke up Sienna and she didn't remember anything. The guy that was next to Sienna ended up roping her. She was very bad, especially after I kicked her out of the house. She never contacted me because she was really in a bad way. She went to therapy and when she wanted to look for me she found out that she was pregnant. Robert supported her all the time. She ended up losing the baby. They started dating later, got married and apparently now she is pregnant. I told my friend that I didn't know anything about that. I always believed that she was unfaithful to me and that Robert never tried to correct me in that regard. I really feel terrible, mentally worn out with so much crap because I still love Sienna. Should I contact Robert or Sienna?